everybody, it's Mrs. Sanders here in the classroom. It's very empty. Nobody's here, which is kind of odd for you all. I'll kind of do like a quick scan here. And what I thought I would do is read you wholes because we're almost done. So just to summarize a little bit of where we left off, because believe it or not, it's been over 2 weeks since we read. If you remember, we have our main character Stanley and Zero going back to the camp after they met up together and were trying to escape the area. And if you remember, Zero was very sick because he'd been without water and food for a while, but they were lucky and were able to find some water even though it was dirty, and then they were able to eat some onions. Keep in mind too the whole Kate Barlow story that Stanley told us earlier in the book, and as we read a little bit, I will ask you some of those questions to try to see if you can remember. I'm actually going to go back a chapter. I'm going to try to keep these videos to about 10, maybe 15 minutes. Not exactly sure about uploading. So for this first one, I may kind of keep it shorter just to make sure I'm able to upload it. So like I said, I'm going to go back a chapter. It's a short one. It's chapter 44. So here we go. Stanley tried to sleep, not knowing when he'd get the chance again. He heard the showers and later the sounds of dinner. He heard the creaking of the rec room door. His fingers drummed against the side of the hole. He heard his own heartbeat. If you remember, they're in a hole outside of the compound, and they're waiting until nobody's around so that they can sneak into the hole where Stanley had found that capsule. He took a drink from the canteen. He had given Zero the water jars. They each had a good supply of onions. He wasn't sure how long he remained in the hole, maybe 5 hours. He was surprised when he heard Zero whispering for him to wake up. He didn't think he'd fallen asleep. If he had, it might have just been for the last 5 minutes. Although, when he opened his eyes, he was surprised how dark it was. There was only one light on at camp, in the office. The sky was cloudy, so there was very little starlight. Stanley could see the sliver of a moon, which appeared and disappeared among the clouds. He carefully led Zero to the hole, which was hard to find in the darkness. He stumbled over a small pile of dirt. "I think this is it," he whispered. "You think?" Zero asked. "It's it," said Stanley, sounding more certain than he really was. He climbed down. Zero handed him the shovel. Stanley stuck the shovel into the dirt at the bottom of the hole and stepped on the back of the blade. He felt it sink beneath his weight. He scooped out some dirt and tossed it off the side. Then he brought the shovel back down. Zero watched for a while. "I'm going to try to refill the water jars," he said. Stanley took a deep breath and exhaled. "Be careful," he said, then continued digging. It was so dark he couldn't even see the end of his shovel. For all he knew, he could be digging up gold and diamonds instead of dirt. He brought each shovelful close to his face to try to see if anything was there, before dumping it out of the hole. As he made the hole deeper, it became harder to lift the dirt up and out. It was 5 feet deep before he even started. He decided to use his efforts to make it wider instead. This made more sense, he told himself. If Kate Barlow had buried the treasure chest, she probably wouldn't have wanted to dig it much deeper, so why should he? Of course, Kate Barlow probably had a whole gang of thieves helping her. "You want some breakfast?" Stanley jumped at the sound of Zero's voice. He hadn't heard him approach. Zero handed down a box of cereal. Stanley carefully poured some cereal into his mouth. He didn't want to put his dirty hands inside the box. He nearly gagged at the ultra-sweet taste. They were Frosted Flakes, and after eating nothing but onions for a week, he had trouble adjusting to the flavor. He washed them down with a swig of water. Zero took over the digging. Stanley sifted his fingers through the fresh piles of dirt, in case he had missed anything. He wished he had a flashlight. A diamond no bigger than a pebble would be worth thousands of dollars, yet there was no way he'd see it. They finished the water that Zero had gotten from the spigot by the showers. Stanley said he'd go fill the jars again, but Zero insisted that he would do it instead. "No offense, but you make too much noise when you walk. You're too big." Stanley returned to the hole. As the hole grew wider, parts of the surface kept caving in. They were running out of the room. To make it much wider, they would have to first move some of the surrounding dirt piles out of the way. He wondered how much time they would have before the camp woke up. "How's it going?" Zero asked when he returned with the water. Stanley shrugged one shoulder. He brought the shovel down to the side of the hole, shaving off a slice of the dirt wall. As he did so, he felt the shovel bounce off something hard. What was that? Zero asked. Stanley didn't know. He moved the shovel up and down the side of the hole. As the dirt chipped and flaked away, the hard object became more pronounced. It was sticking out of the side of the hole, about 1.5 feet from the bottom. He felt it with his hands. What is it? Zero asked. He could feel the corner of it. Most of it was still buried. It had a cool, smooth texture of metal. I think I might have found the treasure chest, he said. His voice was filled with more astonishment than with excitement. Really? Asked Zero. I think so, Stanley said. The hole was wide enough for him to hold the shovel lengthwise and dig sideways into the wall. He knew he had to dig very carefully. He didn't want the side of the hole to collapse, along with a huge pile of dirt directly above it. He scraped at the dirt wall until he exposed one entire side of a box-like object. He ran his fingers over it. It felt to be about 8 inches tall and almost 2 feet wide. He had no way of knowing how far into the earth it extended. He tried pulling it out, but it wouldn't budge. He was afraid that the only way to get it was to start back at the surface again and dig down. They both didn't have time for that. I'm going to try to dig a hole underneath it, he said. Then maybe I can pull it down and slip it out. Go for it, said Zero. Stanley jammed the shovel into the bottom edge of the hole and carefully began to dig a tunnel underneath the metal object. He hoped it didn't cave in. Occasionally he'd stop, stoop down, and try to feel the far end of the box. But even when the tunnel was as long as his arm, he still couldn't feel the other side. Once again he tried pulling it out, but it was firmly in the ground. If he pulled too hard, he feared, it could cause a cave-in. He knew that when he was ready to pull it out, he would have to do it quickly, before the ground above it collapsed. As his tunnel grew deeper and wider and more precariously, Stanley was able to feel latches on one end of the box, and then a leather handle. It wasn't really a box. I think it might be some kind of metal suitcase, he told Zero. Can you try to pry it loose with a shovel? Zero suggested. I'm afraid the side of the hole will collapse. You might as well give it a try, said Zero. Stanley took a sip of water. Might as well, he said. He forced the tip of the shovel between the dirt and the top of the metal case and tried to wedge it free. He wished he could see what he was doing. He looked at the end of the shovel, back and forth, up and down, until he felt the suitcase fall free. Then he felt the dirt coming piling on top of it. But it wasn't a huge cave-in. As he knelt down in the hole, he could tell that it was only a small portion of earth that had collapsed. He dug with his hands until he found the leather handle. Then he pulled the suitcase up and out of the dirt. I got it, he exclaimed. It was heavy. He handed it to Zero. You did it, Zero said, taking it from him. We did it, said Stanley. He gathered his remaining strength and tried to pull himself up out of the hole. Suddenly, a bright light was shining in his face. Thank you, said the warden. You boys have been a big help. Okay, we'll pause there. And remember, this is Holes by Lewis Schaefer. So guys, what I want you to do right now, and we'll kind of try this out, is on Teams, when you log in to Schedule B, at the very bottom where typically I post things, there is a spot where you can actually have conversations with each other. I'd like to try that. I do want to remind you though that this is an educational platform, so just make sure that whatever you're typing is appropriate for school and also on topic. Also make sure, because it's an educational platform, I'm looking for complete sentences, punctuation, make sure that your spelling is accurate, and let's try to stay away from some acronyms that you might use when you're texting. So at the very bottom, if you'd like to, and you did watch this video, if you could please let me know in the conversation. You can just say something like, hi, Miss Sanders, I heard the last chapter of Holes, and anything else that you want to add. To do this, what you'll need to do is you'll need to do the @ symbol, ELA, Schedule B, and then you'll start typing, okay? So if I wanted to say, hi guys, in the conversation starter, I would need to write the type the @ symbol, ELA, Schedule B, and then I can start typing and click enter and it will show up. All right guys, thanks for tuning in.